top stories. Scheduled of first flights announced ahead of the reopening of borders. Guyana's Minister of Education says schools must open eventually, and Pope endorses same-sex civil unions in new documentary. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Thursday, October 22nd, 2020. I am your presenter, Shaira Flanders. Nationally, the St. Kitts Tourism Authority has announced that American Airlines and British Airways will be the first airlines to return to St. Kitts following the reopening of the borders on October 31st. The first flight will arrive at the RLB International Airport on November 7th. Press Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister, Valencia Grant, while speaking on Tuesday's edition of Leadership Matters, outlined the specifics of the announcement made by the Tourism Authority. Ms. Grant gave the list of American Airlines flights expected for the month of November.
AA Miami to SKB number 318, Saturday, November 7th, 2020, Saturday, November 14th, 2020, Wednesday, November 18th, Saturday, November 21st, Sunday, November 22nd, Wednesday, November 25th, Saturday, November 28th, and Sunday, November 29th. And again, those dates are for the American Airlines flight between Miami and St. Kitts Bastille.
She said British Airways will fly into the destination every Saturday in November.
Then there's British Airways 2157 LGW to SKB/BA 2256 SKB LGW. Saturday, November 7th, Saturday, November 14th, Saturday, November 21st, Saturday, November 28th.
According to Ms. Grant, the Tourism Authority has advised that as airlines update their schedules, the public will be informed as airlift schedules are subject to change. In other news, the St. Kitts Mental Health Association hosted a movie screening at Vibes Beach Bar on the Frigate Bay Strip on Wednesday night with aims to spread mental health awareness. The movie, titled Speak Your Mind, was directed by Alicia St. Just, a national of St. Kitts who resides in the UK. St. Just was able to put the film together with assistance from students of the Bastille High School. Guests were treated with a special selection by Royd Phipps, drumming specialist in the Department of Culture, and his group following the screening. A discussion with experts about mental health immediately followed the movie. During the week of October 4th to the 10th, the St. Kitts Mental Health Association celebrated Mental Health Awareness Week under the theme Mental Health for All, Greater Investment, Greater Access, Everyone, Everywhere. The movie screening, which was rescheduled to this week, wrapped up the awareness activities. The Ministry of Tourism, in collaboration with the St. Kitts Sustainable Destination Council, hosted an I Speak St. Kitts Culture and Heritage workshop. The workshop looked at the various aspects of our people's music, folklore, food, and the architectural structure of our buildings. The two-day workshop, which saw the presence of various tourism stakeholders, was geared towards teaching persons about the culture and history of St. Kitts so that they can use what they've learned and combine it with the services offered to visitors and nationals ahead of borders reopening on October 31st. The event was held upstairs Mapao, Port Zante, Bastille, St. Kitts. Heritage consultant Leonard Stapleton was the workshop facilitator. The two-day initiative wrapped up with a field trip to De Pointy's Chateau on Thursday morning. We now move on to news on the regional scene in Guyana. Grade 10 and 11 students who are preparing to write the upcoming CXC exams will be given first priority at physically returning to the classroom setting sooner than their peers. Amel Griffith reports on this report.
With grade 10 and 11 students needing critical time in the classroom to complete school-based assessment (SBA) in the lead-up to the CXC in Cape 2021, consideration is being given for this group of students to return to the classrooms first. This is according to the Ministry of Education. To pave the way forward, the Minister of Education Priyamani Chand on Saturday last met with the regional executive officers and regional education officers countrywide to discuss plans for the eventual reopening of schools. During an interview with senior journalist Gordon Mosley in Hits and Jams 94.1's Jumpstart, the minister stressed the importance of certain amenities such as running water, adequate toilets, and other related features that each school should have for the reopening to happen.
We have to be ready. SBAs would have started or ought to have started in April of this year, to be able to write in 2021. And so we have to look at how we can get those students prepared for those exams.
According to the education minister, teachers returning to school will be the beneficiaries of care packages that includes personal protective equipment, among other undisclosed items, to help them safeguard themselves and their charges. However, the logistics as it relates to how the school will see the reopening for the examination level students are still being worked out.
It can be a shift, it can be a rotation, it could be certain subjects. We are presently talking to schools across the region about what they would prefer.
When questioned about the future of the National Grade 6 Assessment NGSA in 2021, Minister Manik Chand stated that she is not too concerned about the NGSA and other examinations like the Grade 2, 4, and 9 because those are national exams and they can be adjusted accordingly. She reminded that it is a placement examination and other measures can be put in place to allow young learners to be integrated to the new level or schools.
There are tons of options, including writing it much later. Doing only a particular paper, not writing it at all, testing up to a certain level, testing the full level. I mean, we have a range of options. That is our exam, and in consultation with teachers, parents, and students, we will make the best decisions.
For the HGP Nightly News, I'm Mel Griffith.
In St. Lucia, the controversial murder charge against Constable Mitchell Vitalis for the 2018 Emancipation Day shooting death of Ronnie Samuel created a stir among serving members of the force as well as members of the public. 22-year-old Samuel, who was no stranger to law enforcement, was accused of shooting two people at the Emancipation Juve jump-up. Here's more in this HTS News report.
The murder charge against policeman Vitalis for the August 1st, 2018 shooting death of Ronnie Samuel shook the force to its core, prompting spontaneous protests of sorts by policemen and women who stood outside the Criminal Investigations Department in solidarity with their colleague. That was August 16, 2020. Vitalis was charged with murder and initially denied bail. Fast forward to October 20th, 2020, and Commissioner of Police Severin Moncherry made clear his position on Vitalis, who, prior to that incident, was considered to be a model policeman by the many who knew him.
I do not intend to suspend Mr. Vitalis. The legislation gives me the discretion whether I should suspend or not.
Commissioner Moncherry cited Section 32 of the Police Act, which he says gives him the authority to make such a decision. He says Vitalis, though in full-time employment, will not be undertaking his normal duties.
Having looked at the circumstances and having dealt with this case on its merit, I do not find it necessary for me to have Mr. Vitalis suspended. However, he will be placed on desk duty.
The murder charge against policeman Vitalis had generated collective consternation among the serving officers of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, which led to the then acting Commissioner Milton Daisy describing the 16th of August as a sad day for the force. He, however, encouraged the members of his team to continue to carry out their duties diligently. The confirmation that Vitalis will be back on the job, albeit behind a desk, should come as some comfort to the men and women of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. Stanley Lucian for the HTS News Force.
On the international scene, the leader of the Roman Catholic Church, Pope Francis, has endorsed same-sex civil unions for the first time. Pope Francis made the comments in a documentary which premiered at the Rome Film Festival, saying he supported the right of same-sex couples to have a family. His comments, however, are a radical departure from those of his predecessors. Al Jazeera's Andrew Chappelle reports.
About an hour into a new documentary film about the leader of the Roman Catholic Church, Pope Francis appears to go off the official script, explicitly calling for same-sex couples to be given legal protections because, he says, all children of God have a right to a family. The statement of support for civil unions is a major departure from official church teachings and from the views of his predecessor Benedict XVI, who called homosexuality an intrinsic moral evil.
I think it will be received in very different ways in different countries. It will be accepted as finally something that has happened finally in most European countries. It will be received in a very difficult way in the United States. It's an open question how it will be received in churches in Africa, Asia, because it all depends from national legislations on same-sex marriages that vary widely.
In a time where so many people are divided about the world's problems and who's causing them, Pope Francis appears determined to take the church out of the culture wars and away from divisive social issues. But for some in his native Argentina, the move doesn't go far enough.
With this recognition from Pope Francis that our couples are also families, that gays, lesbians, bisexuals and trans people have rights to form a family, we're taking a step forward, especially for LGBT people of faith. But when he says that we have to recognize their rights of civil union, that's where we say it's progress, but not so much.
This is a man who's opened his heart to the
Progress takes time in a church that's so old. For many, this message of togetherness and inclusivity is just what the times require. Andrew Chappelle, Al Jazeera.
Donald Trump and his Democratic rival Joe Biden are preparing for the final U.S. presidential debate later Thursday. Organizers in Nashville, Tennessee, have made changes to the format aimed at avoiding a repeat of the first debate, during which Trump repeatedly interrupted Biden as he was speaking. Al Jazeera's Kimberly Hackett reports.
Shut up, man. The first presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, according to many political analysts, was a low point in the 2020 U.S. election.
Because you weren't president screwing things up.
The U.S. president repeatedly interrupted his Democratic rival and also the moderator.
Sir, Chris, that was the worst part of it.
And just 3 days later, Trump was in the hospital after testing positive for COVID-19, raising questions about whether or not he knew he was infected with the virus when he took to the debate stage. Trump's refusal to do a virtual debate led to the cancellation of the second presidential matchup. Instead, both nominees participated in their own separate town halls at the same time and on the same night. But now, with the final debate set to take place in Nashville, there are questions about Trump's tactics and whether he'll take an aggressive stance, as he did in the first debate.
Americans saw that and they didn't like it. It looked out of control, it looked bullying, it looked disrespectful, not just of Biden, but of the entire electoral process. And so I don't think it would be the best thing for him to try to do that again.
One notable change this time, the campaigns agreed to an uninterrupted rule, which means the microphone of the candidate who doesn't have the floor will be muted. Trump isn't happy about the change and has repeatedly attacked the debate commission and the next moderator as biased against him. Earlier this week, the Trump campaign sent out a letter to the debate commission complaining it changed the focus of the debate from foreign policy, adding more domestic issues like COVID-19 and racial injustice. Meanwhile, Biden has spent the week at home without any public events. Analysts believe he has the most to lose by a poor showing in the final presidential debate.
He'll be entering the debate with a sizable and consistent lead. And the danger for a candidate in that position is, what if you do or say the wrong thing in response to the wrong question in a way that fundamentally upends the way people look at your campaign?
It's the undecided voter that candidates often try to win over in a presidential debate. But there are fewer undecided voters this year than in 2016. With early voting surging, most have already made up their mind about who they want to win on Election Day. Kimberly Helkett, Al Jazeera, the White House.
And now for the weather. Present weather is fair. We've got calm winds today. Skies are clear today with a light breeze of 5 miles per hour moving from the west to northwest. Current temperature is 28 degrees Celsius. That's 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Seas are reaching 3 to 6 feet. A high surf advisory remains in effect mainly for the northern and north-facing coastlines. Beachgoers should be extremely cautious. Bathe only where lifeguards are present or at the sheltered, less affected beaches, mainly to the south. Today is expected to be partly sunny with a slight chance of showers, and the forecast says expect partly cloudy conditions with a 20% or a slight chance of showers tonight. Sunset today will be at 5:45 p.m. and the sun is expected to rise tomorrow at 6:06 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your presenter, Shaira Flanders. Have a good one.
Reimagine a world where drones and frontline robots improve healthcare, satellites make education possible, and technology in agriculture improves livelihoods and saves costs. In the October edition of the Caribbean Economic Forum on how to digitize an economy, we discuss how Rwanda digitally transformed and how Barbados and St. Kitts and Nevis are speeding up their digital transformation to boost their economies, provide jobs, and make it more convenient for their citizens to do business with the world. Our panel, Rwandan Paula Ingabire, Minister of ICT and Innovation; Rodney Taylor, Director, Data Processing Department, Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, Barbados; and St. Kitts and Nevis, Akila Byron Nisbet, Minister of Health, ICT, Entertainment, Entrepreneurship and Talent Development. Join the conversation on digitizing an economy, Tuesday, October 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Jamaica. Tune into this station or log on online.